Here, look, and can I just say I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to open today's debate. Can I just say I launched our Rural Future in 2021, and it is the most ambitious and transformational rural policy development ever introduced by an Irish government. Sorry, Gamal Eshkale, I just want that phone going off. Sorry about that. It's a 5-year plan, and we're just over 2 years into its implementation, and already we are seeing the hugely positive impact it is having on the ground. As we stand here today, we have more people living in rural Ireland than ever before. We have more people working in rural Ireland than ever before, and there never has been in the history of the state more investment going into rural communities than under this government. I know over the course of today's debate there will be a wide range of issues raised, and people will outline their differing views. The opposition have a job to do, and I absolutely appreciate that. But any fair analysis, however, has to recognise those 3 indicators: more people living in rural Ireland, more jobs in rural Ireland, and more investment in rural Ireland. And I'm very proud to come from Ahabog in County Monaghan, and I can tell you Ahabog is every bit as rural as it sounds. Rural development is very close to my heart, as I know it is close to the hearts of many of my colleagues on all sides of the House here today. And I'm not going to stand here today and pretend that there aren't challenges in rural Ireland. There are challenges, and there are absolutely areas where we need to do more as a government. So I hope today we can have a constructive debate that recognises those challenges, but also acknowledges the good work that is happening on the ground and the significant investment that is going into our rural communities. Rural development is a key priority in the programme for government. Our Rural Future is a policy that was developed using the principle of a place-based approach. And this recognises that as rural communities are different, with individual challenges and often unique strengths, there can be no one-size-fits-all approach to rural development. And that's why my priority as Minister for Rural and Community Development is to empower communities. I want them to identify their own local development priorities and proposals and support them to meet the ambitions of their community and reach their full potential. And it's that grassroots, ground-up approach that is the cornerstone of the various funding streams that I have put in place across my department. And I might know what's needed in Monaghan, but there's no point in me trying to impose something on communities in Kerry or Cork. It's the local people in our towns, villages and parishes across the country who know what's needed in their own community, and that's why the suite of funding schemes I've put in place across my department, whether it's the Rural Regeneration Fund, the Town and Village Renewal Scheme, the Outdoor Recreation Fund, CLAR or the Community Centre Fund, the ideas and proposals under all of those funding programmes have to come from communities themselves. Under the revised National Development Plan, capital funding of €962 million is available to support rural and community development projects until 2025. And I can genuinely say the one thing I hear from local authorities and community groups all the time is that there has never been more funding available for rural development projects. To date, my department's Rural Regeneration and Development Fund has provided almost €400 million for over 200 major projects countrywide. Over the last few months alone, I have been fortunate to visit and open a wide range of completed RRDF projects across the country, and this includes the Bantier Sports Field and the Working Hub in Cork, a state-of-the-art recreational facility developed by the local community. The fantastic Yates Trail in Sligo, which will be a huge boost to tourism in the North West region. The Yard Hub in Abbeyshrew, County Longford, which is a wonderful example of an old derelict building dating back to the 1850s, which has been completely renovated and transformed into a remote working hub. The new Trim Cultural Centre and Library in Meath, and the beautiful Moncongreve Estate and Gardens in Waterford, which will be a jewel in the crown for tourism in the South East. And this coming Sunday, I look forward to opening Feathered Town Park in Tipperary, which is another fantastic community-led project. These are just a few examples of some of the projects which have been supported with multi-million euro investments by my department as part of our rural future. So I could talk all day about the work we're doing in developing our outdoor recreation amenities. In rural Ireland, we're blessed with the natural amenities on our doorsteps, whether it's our mountains, our lakes, forests, beaches or bogs. Through our new National Outdoor Recreation Strategy, we are investing hugely in developing these amenities and improving access for locals and visitors alike. Last year, I opened the Slieve Bloom Mountain Bike Trail in Offaly, and it was great to meet the local businesses of the village of Kinnity who have opened up on foot of that investment, whether it was the local coffee shop or the bike rental business. There's identical stories to this all across the country. There's a newfound appreciation for our great outdoors post-COVID, and local economies in rural areas are reaping the benefits of that. In particular, inland counties who haven't traditionally got the same tourism draw as some of our coastal counties, they are benefiting from the development of these amenities. The recent census results show population growth in every county for the first time. This reverses a trend we have seen for decades of population decline in some rural areas. In the past, young people left their local community in search of work. We now have full employment in this country, and there is a job for everybody who wants one. So if you just go back a few short years, did any of us think we'd be able to say that? You look at May alone, 1,000 jobs announced in Dexcom in Athenry, 600 jobs announced at Analog Devices in Limerick, over 400 jobs announced at Boston Scientific in Clonmel. Enterprise Ireland announced record job creation figures for last year, and even better, over 70% of these jobs are outside of Dublin. Likewise, the majority of new jobs being created in IDA-supported companies are now in the regions. And we can never take this progress for granted. And I just want to say that my thoughts today are with the 650 workers in Tara Mines. Officials from my Department of Social Protection are on the ground in Navan, working with the Department of Enterprise, Louthmead ETB and other agencies to ensure that the workers get the support they need. One of the most positive findings of the recent census data was that the fact that over 750,000 workers, that's almost a third of the entire workforce, are now working remotely. I firmly believe remote working is the game changer for rural communities. Ireland is the head of the curve internationally on this. We're rolling out the National Broadband Plan, and that's high-speed fibre broadband to the home. It's a future-proofed network. Would I like to see it rolled out faster? Of course I would. In fairness, after COVID delays, delivery is ramping up now. Between 3,000 to 4,000 premises are now being connected every month. It is a monumental project. It's akin to rural electrification and every bit as important. A few years ago, a lot of people were asking if it was the right thing to do. Nobody's asking that question now. One of the key commitments in our rural future is the development of a network of 400 remote working hubs by 2025. My department has invested over 150 million in the development of remote working facilities in every county right across the country. We already have 319 hubs on the Connected Hubs network, so we are well on course to meet our target of 400 hubs by 2025. I have visited many of these facilities in different parts of the country, and they have the potential to deliver so much more to their communities than simply remote working spaces. They're being used as enterprise centres, as start-up incubators, creative hubs and much, much more. Only this morning, along with Minister Harris, I launched a new initiative in conjunction with our technological universities to deliver blended learning courses through the Connected Hubs network. Last year, I attended a cabinet meeting remotely from a hub on Bear Island off the coast of Cork. And only last week, I opened a new GTech hub on Mallinbeg in Donegal. So just to give you an idea, when you're driving along the road to Mallinbeg, the radio signal drops in the car, and that's how remote we're talking here. Yet in that hub, the old school in Mallinbeg, they have high-speed broadband and they have a better mobile phone signal than I have in my own house in Monaghan. So the following day then, I was out in Arranmore Island and I was launching the new Islands policy. And I spoke to the managers of the hub there, Seamus and Adrian, and I heard the stories of young people who have come back from Seattle, people who are working for the financial services companies in Dublin, and they can do it all from a hub in Arranmore. Some of the workers go out at lunchtime, they jump into the sea and they go for a swim. And indeed, the manager said there's a trail of sand sometimes going into the remote working hub. So I can tell you that on a sunny day in Arranmore, and it was a lovely day I might add, I just thought to myself, would I rather be doing that or sitting in traffic on the M50? With high-speed broadband, you can do the same job in Ballybay as you can in Ballsbridge, or indeed Mallinbeg or Manhattan. So what does this mean for rural communities? It means that your son and daughter can have a good career and live in their own local community. It means they can build a house and they can start a family in their own locality. It means they can spend money in the local shop. It means their children can go to the local primary school. It means they can play for the local GAA club. But most importantly of all, it means a better quality of life. And that's what remote working enables. And I believe that remote working hubs offer workers a good environment in which to work in their own community. If we're to have more people living in rural Ireland, then of course, more people working in rural Ireland, then we need homes for them. And the Croí Cónaithe Vacant Home Grant has been a fantastic success. Grants between 50 to 70,000 for the refurbishment of vacant or derelict properties. And I know from my own constituency office there is a huge interest in this scheme. You can already see work starting on properties that have been lying idle for years. In the same vein, the Help to Buy scheme is also a big help for any young person building a new house in the country, and for a young couple building their own home, they can get tax relief of 30,000 towards the cost, and that's a huge help. And I said earlier there are challenges in rural areas, and of course planning is one such issue. None of us want to see a return to the bad old days of ribbon development or houses being built on floodplains. But there has to be a balance on this. Our planning regulations need to support people to build on their own land, and we have a golden, once-in-a-generation opportunity now to support the return of our young people to our rural parishes. Government policy must support this and not get in the way of it. It is critical that the forthcoming rural planning guidelines from the Department of Housing recognise this. There are so many other positive initiatives happening in rural areas at the moment across government. The opening of the Macroom bypass last year, that's a €300 million investment. The new Westport to Castlebar road, that's a €250 million investment in the west. There's been a major expansion of rural transport services, with enhanced services announced to 67 routes countrywide. The rollout of the technological university model is now complete, thus providing high-quality education opportunities for third-level students in regional locations. Almost €1 billion is being invested in school building projects across the country this year alone. Over €45 million was invested last year in the upgrade of over 860 community centres. Town regeneration officers in place in every county to utilise schemes like the Rural Regeneration Development Fund, Town and Village and other funding programmes to bring vacant and derelict properties back into use. And all of this investment stems from the €165 billion National Development Plan. I've been in every county over the last 2.5 years. Indeed, I have been to most counties 2 or 3 times at this stage. And there is genuine positivity and optimism in rural communities at the moment. And we have to seize that moment. And that's what our rural future is all about. I mentioned my own home parish of Ahabog at the start of the debate, and I'm going to finish on them. Ahabog is a small rural GAA club, and for a long time now they either hadn't been able to field a team in some age groups, or they've had to amalgamate with other clubs to make up the numbers. But this year, for the first time in decades, Ahabog can field a team on their own at every level, from under-10s right through to the senior. It's stories like this that convince me we're on the right track, and I leave it at that, and I look forward to hearing deputies' contributions. Gura maith agat.